Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. So many times I get to talk with coaches and ask them about their culture, but they're at places where they've already established it. I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to speak to many guys that this was my first year or I'm going into a new place. Mm-hmm. So how does culture drive performance? And based on all the things we've already talked about, what were some of those things you just wanted to make sure that you established when you first got there?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is accountability, and that's all the way through. And I think I'm very black and white, and I kind of went into things like, I don't want to treat the players differently in the sense of the accountability side. I know, like in game stuff, like certain players will have more responsibility, so on and so forth. But like that, the character stuff we do, and I think that's the hardest thing when you come in, because whether this is, like I said, this is my 5th head coaching job taking over, and whether it was good or bad, like it's different. And so kids have a tough time with it being different, especially the juniors and seniors. And so, and even like if you're at a good, like I've known guys that went into good programs and they struggled because it's different. You know, it's like, well, we did this last time, but this way we had success, you know, so it's about buying in. And I think really the biggest thing with our culture is, you know, I'm big on being there at everything. Like, I feel like if I'm going to open the gym, I'm going to be there, because I always tell our guys, it's hard to lead if you're not there. Like if I'm saying, hey, we're going to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go do some stuff, and I come strolling in at 8, you know, that like for me, like if I'm trying to lead by example, especially when you're at places that haven't had success, right? They don't know what it looks like. And so we're really, with our culture stuff, we're trying to get kids to commit. And I tell them, like, whether I'm here or not, in 5 years, I'm probably still gonna be coaching somewhere, but like, this is yours. So, you know, I try to create as much ownership in the program as them. And the guys that show up, and so I have a lot of programs that we do. Like we have a fall season, we have an end season, we have a spring season, and we have a summer season. And they're all based around some sort of point system to rank the kids. And a lot of it's based on, you know, like in the spring, it's more individual development. It's, you know, like right now we're doing a lot of stuff that's, you know, getting shots up, showing up. And then it's also, so it has like a combination of being there and then being
what you're doing. Yeah. The work.
If you're, you know, like if you show up to everything and you don't win, you're going to be in the middle of the pack. And if you win everything but don't show up to anything extra, you're going to be in the middle of the pack. So I want to find those guys that do both, and then I'm going to give them the keys and allow them to have a little bit more say in what we do. So we just have a lot of programs like that. You know, like the fall's more designed around the team development. The end season, of course, is about like our end season, and then the spring and the summer is more about trying to grow. And I want to allow those kids to have that. And I think, because I always feel like if it's yours, you're going to take better care of it. And so our culture is all about showing up, doing it the right way, you know, being there, and then just giving your best effort, you know. So that's kind of how we base all of our stuff after culturally. And the same thing in the classroom. Like if you can't turn your science work in on time, then you're not going to be able to make the right decision when there's 30 seconds left in a district game, you know? So it's just like those little things. I mean, we have some account, like we run for zeros every day. If you have 0, we start our practice out with it. So we have, I do some like locker room. Like if you're locked, I'll tell, like this week, our lock needs to be on shut, everything in, and on 2. And I try to give them like little details. And if it's on 1, it's like just little details that they got to focus in on to be disciplined, right? Yeah. And I think in a lot of places I've been, I'm really the only people holding accountable. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like teaching those kids to be disciplined. Like, well, coach, it's stupid. Like, why do I got to put it on my lock on 0? It's like, well, you can do it. So you're choosing to do it or not to do it. And so that's kind of like our
That's a
whole
life
focus
lesson.
and everything. Yeah.
That's stop signs.
Yeah.
Stop signs are stupid. I think most of them should be yield signs.
Yeah.
But just because I feel that way doesn't change the fact that I'll get a ticket for rolling through that stop sign.
Oh yeah. And I tell people all the time, like, even it's like stuff in the classroom, like, well, you have to learn how to, like, certain teachers you can be different with, you know,
context. You got to know the context of the room.
Yeah.
And part of that is knowing the individuals. One thing I love that you said, and I've never heard anybody say, you're right. Like coaches will come and go. So but a lot of us coaches will talk about, you know, it's our program. Yes. But like they're a part of it. I like that idea of these kids, unless they change schools, they will always be a part of the Lake Dallas program. And there will come a time where you're not anymore as the coach. There'll be somebody else, but it'll always be their school, the same way the Colony for me, Louisville for you. That's a unique shift, because the key with culture, standards, how you show up every day is really wanting ownership from them and them to feel like they're co-contributors to what you're creating. That framework or way of shaping it, I think is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, and I just think that like, I always look back at my experience. If I felt like I had control over something that was mine, I was going to, like, if I'm just like showing up and somebody telling me what to do all the time and I'm just doing it. Well, first of all, I'm never going to get any better because I'm not going to know how to do stuff. Because a lot of the stuff we do is I try to teach, because I don't feel like kids know how to work. I think we talked the other day a little bit about pickup stuff. You know, I don't think kids play pickup. Like we're doing a lot of that stuff right now and trying to teach kids how to compete. Because if you always have to have a trainer, you always have to be in a
structure.
If you have that, you're gonna reach a cap, because you're not always gonna have somebody there. Like, it's a lot of money to have a trainer. Like, you don't have somebody with you 24/7. You have to be able to figure some things out to do. Like, if you go to a gym, like, don't go up there and just like have a 45-minute plan. And so a lot of the little things that we do in our, you know, before school, like our leadership workouts, we open up the gym and we have things that they can do. And and hopefully, in my mind, like, if they get in the summer and they're in a gym, like, you know what, I'm going to do this stuff that we've been doing, and kind of give them a plan. I think you have to have a plan in everything. And so, and like I said, like, you can choose not to give your best effort, but you're just going to hurt you because you're finite. Like, your basketball career is finite. I saw, like, even if you go play in the NBA, when you get to like 30, I mean,
they were marveling last night about how PJ Tucker is 37.
Yeah.
And he's still going. Another thing you said that I don't think I do a good job of is, and maybe I've gone too far, of allowing kids to choose. I mean, obviously they have the choice whether they show up or not, but I don't necessarily reward the ones that do. You know, it's almost like, if you show up, the natural byproduct of that is you get better. You know, you show up and you have the right plan, and you work smart, you work hard, and you work consistently. But the ones that don't show up, especially at Faith, I've really backed away from, you know, the coach speak, passive aggressive, you know, or straight calling them out. It's their choice. But then I don't know. I think maybe you can go too far in that of the guys actually think it's okay. That they don't show up. And so I don't know. What's the balance there?
So what I do is I don't, like, I might have some of the coach speak with, like, where you at, but I post everything. So they see. So, like, for example, we have, like, in the spring, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we had like early morning weights. They could come attend. If they came, they would get points. Then we'd have shooting. If they came, they would get points. Every shot they get up, they get a certain amount of points. And so each week, what I do is, in the spring, our top 5 guys or our top 6 guys are on our top team, whether they're one of the best players or not. And so that's how I break up our groups. And and then I post it. And so it's one of those things where they see it. And I tell them, I was like, the spring's all about your development. So like, you're going to basically be grouped in the guys that are going to work the hardest in our period. So like, whenever we get into our athletic period and we do our team stuff, like I'm going to group the guys that are showing up all the time together. And so it kind of makes a competition. And then I create a thing like in the summer where our top 4 guys basically are like our team leaders, and they have a draft and they pick all the kids in the program, and they're responsible for those kids to get them. So it kind of starts creating this like where I'm not always the one trickling out, like now you're like, and so at the end of the summer, there's a reward for that. So like if you, and I always tell them, you can fire one person from your team. So like if you draft somebody and then they're not doing anything, you come to me and like, coach, I'm trying to get them. You have to show me like proof that you've tried to like encourage him.
He looked at me bad, coach. I'm firing him today.
No, so then we can, and I felt like I moved them to a team, like their own team. And so like, and so it like creates this accountability within the group, because like the biggest thing I notice when I go to places that don't have culture, and like kids don't like to, and it's even with, they don't like to hold kids accountable because they don't know what it feels like. So they're not going to step out. And so I try to create everything we do is trying to be competitive. So yeah, I don't really like make them come. It's not, I tell them, this is not mandatory, but I mean, realistically, the people that work harder usually are the ones that get better. And even if you're a guy that shows up all the time and you're not as talented, you might not, like, you're going to put yourself in the best, like you might be a JV kid right now, but then you might be like a guy that gets a role in varsity. Just because you work the hardest doesn't mean you're going to get the most in the game, but you're going to put yourself in a position to be successful at your max level. You know, some kids on max level is only being a high school varsity kid role player. That's your max level, but you put yourself there. If you didn't do these things, you never would have got there. And so that's the hard thing for kids, but that's just that's kind of what we're trying to do. So
I like that system though, because it definitely takes a lot of the guessing out. And I had somebody say that peer pressure is good, like, or there's a part of peer pressure that can be good. And we need to, as coaches, tap into that, where the more that guys are doing it, and the more that it's in their face, and the more they see others getting rewarded, and that accountability is coming from them. Oh, it was Coach Butterfield at UTD said, you know, you got to use that peer pressure that kids have with each other, but for good. And I see your system doing that.
Yeah. And I'm weird with stuff, like even like during the season, like I grade all the practices and everything. I have like a system, and I actually play the guys that are the most productive. And so everything's productive. And it's funny because like I really never have parent meetings, because the kids always know. Like I probably had 2 or 3 parent meetings my whole entire career with playing time stuff, because the kids know every day where they stand.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be that way, because I think when we played, a lot of times it was like the mind game stuff, but I'm like, I try to be real direct and clear with everybody. And you might not like what I think, and you might not agree with me, but this is where I stand with you. And so I try to base everything off that production stuff. And I'll have assistant coaches when I go somewhere like, well, he's our better player. And I'm like, yeah, he is, but this kid is playing better than him. So at the time, like, we're better with this kid playing. Now, if he produces, we're better with him. But I always feel like potential is a dangerous thing. Like, oh, he's got the potential. Yeah, but he's not producing, you know? So,
yeah.
And then I think that kind of goes into outside of basketball. Like if you want a job, like I got a big job interview and I don't prepare for it, and I got to go win that job interview. Like I have to be more productive. And then sometimes you're going to do that, and you're not going to get the job because life's not fair, but that's just what it is. So you can only just control those little games every day. So.
Yeah. And again, I think the brilliance too in your plan is that for players, they'll have a lot of clarity. I think one of the hardest things for players is just really not understanding why. And a lot of kids just don't know the questions to ask to get those answers from coaches. So they'll just sit in this place of not knowing. And then on the parent meeting side, we know that it always comes down to playing time.
Oh, yeah.
And we're getting to the point now where this is based on what I see isn't a good enough answer for parents. So something that you have is it gives them something actual, like data to look at. I think that's really smart. Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.